In the beginning, long, long ago, when the world was still young, the supreme god Nyambe lived on earth with his wife, Nasilele. They dwelled together in a vast, unending plain called Balozi, nestled beside the mighty river they named Zambezi. Nyambe and Nasilele shaped the world with their boundless power. With a mighty breath, Nyambe summoned the air, and it swirled into existence, filling the empty sky. He clapped his hands, and the land cracked open to birth deep valleys and towering hills. Nasilele, with a single step, flattened the land and made vast green plains. She spat upon the earth, and great rivers and lakes burst forth, carving their way through the land. From the sweep of Nyambe's hand, the forests sprang up, teeming with trees so tall they touched the heavens. And with the tap of his mighty axe upon a giant rock, the mountains rose high, their peaks piercing the clouds. At last, they created the animals. First among them was the great red antelope, who leaped with grace across the plains. Then came Sasisho, the messenger parrot, whose brilliant feathers shone like the dawn, and Simbukiki, the wise grasshopper, who whispered secrets of the earth. With them came the elephants, the lions, the leopards, the fish of the river, the buffalo, the giraffes, the tortoises, and countless others, each given their place in the world. Finally, Nyambe and Nasilele fashioned their greatest creation, a man and a woman, whom they named Kamunu and Namunu. For a time, all was perfect. The gods, the animals, and humans lived together in harmony, as equals. The world thrived, the rivers sang, and the children of the earth flourished. But soon, Kamunu began to change. He watched Nyambe closely and imitated him. If Nyambe carved wood, Kamunu carved wood. If Nyambe forged iron, Kamunu forged iron. Nyambe sought to hide his creations, retreating to a cave beneath a waterfall to work in solitude. But Kamunu was clever. He peered through cracks, spied from behind trees, and always found a way to uncover Nyambe's secrets. If Nyambe carved wood into beautiful shapes, Kamunu would soon be seen with a piece of wood, whittling away. When Nyambe wove baskets from reeds, Kamunu would gather his own reeds and start weaving. Nyambe, trying to keep his divine crafts private, would hide in a cave behind a waterfall, thinking he was safe from curious eyes. But Kamunu was clever. He'd find the tiniest cracks to peek through or climb around to spy on Nyambe's work. It was like a fun, never-ending game of hide-and-seek where Nyambe would hide, but Kamunu would always find him. Kamunu watched closely when Nyambe made fire, his eyes wide with wonder. He learned how to rub sticks together until smoke appeared, and then he too could create fire. He felt a rush of pride every time a flame danced at his command. Next, when Nyambe worked with iron, forging it into tools under the glow of his forge, Kamunu hid behind bushes, his gaze fixed on every strike of the hammer. He soon started his own forge, heating and shaping metal into knives and hoes, mirroring Nyambe's work. Kamunu didn't stop there. He mimicked Nyambe's way of building shelters, learning to use mud and grass to make homes. If Nyambe planted seeds in the earth, Kamunu planted his own, watching the green shoots emerge from the soil. Every new skill he acquired felt like a small victory in this playful challenge against Nyambe. Through all this, Kamunu's life became a reflection of the gods. Each day a new lesson learned, each night a step closer to mastering the art of creation. Nyambe watched Kamunu with a mix of awe and fear. He spoke to Nasilele. "Kamunu is more cunning than his brothers. I do not like it." Though he was his own creation, Nyambe began to fear man. One day, Kamunu forged an iron spear. He walked through the plains, his eyes sharp and hungry. When he saw the child of the great red antelope, he lifted his spear and struck. The young antelope collapsed, lifeless. Kamunu, filled with triumph, soon unalived more creatures, roasting their flesh over the fire he had stolen from the gods. Nyambe was furious. He called Kamunu before him and thundered, "You man, your way of acting is evil. Why do you unalive? These are your brothers. Do not eat them. You are all my children together." But Kamunu did not listen. He went on another hunting spree, and this time was joined by his children, some of whom had grown into strong young men. They walked in a long file, and together fired their spears at other animals. Those who they managed to catch, they ran away with, and the rest of the animals hid away in fear. So Nyambe cast him out, sending him into exile to a barren land, where the sun scorched the earth, and the winds howled like lost souls. There, thorns tore at Kamunu's feet, and the land yielded no food. For a year, he suffered. In the barren wasteland where Nyambe had cast him, Kamunu knew only suffering. The sun, a relentless tyrant in the sky, scorched the earth beneath his feet, turning the once lush ground into a parched, cracked canvas of despair. Each step was a torment. The thorns that littered the land tore at his flesh, leaving trails of blood that marked his path of exile. The wind here was not the gentle breeze of Balozi, but a howling, mournful dirge, whispering tales of his betrayal and solitude. No trees offered shade, no rivers quenched thirst. The heavens above were a cruel, empty blue, devoid of the clouds that might offer respite from the sun's tyranny. Days stretched into nights, and nights into an endless cycle of survival. Hunger gnawed at Kamunu, like a beast from the depths of his own nightmares. The land yielded nothing, the plants were brittle, the animals scarce. His belly rumbled with a hunger that seemed to echo in the desolate void around him. Alone, Kamunu grappled with the weight of his actions. The memory of the great red antelope's child, struck down by his own hand, haunted him. The laughter of his children, the warmth of his wife's embrace, all were but echoes in this forsaken place. His body, once strong, began to wither. His skin tightened against his bones, his eyes sank into their sockets, reflecting the emptiness of his surroundings. Each night, as he lay down on the unforgiving earth, he wondered if this was his end, a slow, agonizing death, far from the life he had known. But within this crucible of suffering, Kamunu found a way to survive. He foraged the land for wild berries and dug the bark of huge trees for water. He even managed to make a magic pot in which he boiled everything, even rocks, and they became good to eat. He loved his pot almost like a companion, and finally, the year of exile was done. And then, weary and broken, he returned to Balozi Plain. Kamunu came carrying the magic pot and a great club, his feet bloodied from the long journey. The great red antelope, drinking by the Zambezi, saw him first. She rushed to Sasisho, the messenger parrot, and cried, "The one who unalived my child has returned." Sasisho flew to Nyambe and reported, "Kamunu is here. He has returned." Nyambe sighed, "I have heard it. Let him come to me." Kamunu stood before Nyambe and promised to never again strike an animal. But, as he turned to leave, Nyambe's dog leapt at him, and in defense, Kamunu struck it. The dog yelped and limped to Nyambe's side. Filled with pity, Nyambe took a handful of earth, pressed it against the wound, and the dog was healed. Kamunu watched in awe. He tried the same with his own wounded feet, but nothing happened. Then Nyambe knew man would never be his equal. Time passed like the slow meandering waters of the Zambezi, and the world was transformed. Kamunu and Namunu, now seasoned with the wisdom of years, had raised a lineage of children who spread across the fertile plains of Balozi. These children, with their laughter and their labor, turned the wild lands into fields of grain and homes of mud and thatch. Yet, with prosperity came an unfamiliar guest, sorrow. One fateful day, a chilling wind, blew with the hue of morning, swept from the Zambezi into the heart of their village. It found its way into the lungs of Kamunu's youngest daughter, who was known for her laughter that mimicked the melody of the river. The people tried to pump her chest. Others tried to pour cold water on her, that maybe it might shock her back into aliveness. yet she lay still and would not wake up. They tried everything, but it was all in vain. She lay still, as are the rocks that sat at the bank of the great river. Her breath ebbed away like the tide, her once vibrant skin paling, her breath becoming a whisper of the wind that had brought this calamity. She lay still, her life snuffed out like a flame in the night. Kamunu, overcome with grief, carried his daughter to Nyambe, his heart a storm of despair. He ran towards Nyambe as if the whole weight of the world had been placed on his back, while carrying the daughter he loved so much. His wife, Namunu, followed closely behind, wailing so loudly that all other animals felt her pain, the same kind that the red antelope had felt a long time ago. "Great Nyambe," he pleaded, his voice cracking under the weight of his sorrow. "Return my daughter's breath. She was the light of our village, the song in our hearts." Nyambe looked upon Kamunu with eyes that held the depth of time itself. "Kamunu," he said sadly, "the cycle of life has begun. As the seasons change, so must life. Even among the gods, things must end." Kamunu, his heart shattered, returned to his village. With his own hands, he dug a grave deep in the earth, laying his daughter to rest beneath the stars they had once gazed upon together. He marked her resting place with stones painted in the colors of the dawn, the first grave in a world that had not known death until that moment. The community gathered, their chants a mix of mourning and a new understanding of life's fleeting nature. Thus, death became known, for it had entered the world of men. A long time had passed since the discord of the past, and a quiet had returned to the Balozi plain, where man continued his tireless toil in the fields, and the animals roamed with cautious freedom. Kamunu and Namunu, with their hands deep in the earth, had seen their fields multiply, the green of their land sprawling further with each passing season. Their children had grown, their children's children filling the world with laughter and life, their numbers increasing like the stars in the night sky. Nyambe and Nasilele, the divine architects of this world, still resided by the Zambezi, their presence a constant in the ever-changing landscape. Yet, their duties often called them away, venturing on long journeys to craft other worlds, leaving the plain to its rhythms. One day, tragedy struck Kamunu's household. The pot in which he brewed his potent medicines shattered, its magic spilling into the dust. Desperate, Kamunu sought the aid of Sasisho, the messenger bird, his voice urgent as he spoke. "Go and speak on my behalf to Nyambe. Tell him my pot is broken." Upon delivering the message, Nyambe responded with a detached acceptance. "My own things also end like that," his words echoing the impermanence of all creation. Time marched on, and another loss darkened Kamunu's doorstep. His faithful dog, companion through countless days, had passed away. With a heavy heart, Kamunu approached Kangomba, another of Nyambe's messengers, saying, "My dog has passed." Nyambe's reply was as cold as the river in the depths of winter. "It is good, I have heard." Yet, behind his grand throne, in the shadows where truth often lurked, Kamunu spotted the unmistakable, the fragments of his broken pot and the unmistakable tale of his dear dog. He returned home, confiding in Namunu. "I saw my dog with Nyambe, and my pot too." Namunu, ever the skeptic, shook her head, her voice firm. "It is not like that." That very night, as if the gods themselves were testing man's resolve, a herd of elephants and buffaloes descended upon Kamunu's fields, their hooves turning the earth into chaos. The noise roused Namunu, who shook Kamunu awake. With a spear in hand, he charged into the fray, his movements a storm of vengeance. He wounded the behemoths, and as dawn broke, their lives had ended. Once again, Kamunu turned to Sasisho, the messenger bird, with a message of both confession and defiance. "Go and announce me to Nyambe. Say I have unalived the elephant and the buffalo. But Sasisho returned with news that chilled the air. Nyambe and Nasilele were absent. Their divine attention turned to the creation of other worlds. The animals of the plain, once brothers and sisters in creation, now whispered in fear. They met in secret, their voices hushed. Man is dangerous. He unalives others. The consensus was a dark cloud over the land. Kamunu was now the predator among them, no longer kin but a threat. The plain, once a symphony of life, became a silent stage of dread. Whenever Kamunu passed, the creatures vanished into the shadows, the vibrant life of Balozi reduced to whispers and watchful eyes. The joy was gone, replaced by an oppressive silence, each creature waiting, hoping for the return of order, of justice. One late afternoon, with the sun painting the sky in hues of gold and crimson, Nyambe and Nasilele returned. Their descent was like the first note of a long-awaited melody, yet the air was thick with the anticipation of judgment. The animals, peeking from their hiding places, watched as the deities surveyed the land, their eyes seeking the truth in the wreckage of what once was harmony. The moment of reckoning had arrived. The animals came out of their hiding places, one after the other, with a sigh of relief that their creator will finally deliver justice. All the animals came running to Nyambe and Nasilele, their eyes wide with fear. "Kamunu is dangerous," they cried. "He's unaliving us." Nyambe called Kamunu over and asked, "Why did you hurt the elephant and the buffalo?" "They trampled my fields," Kamunu replied, his voice a mix of anger and hurt. Nyambe looked at him sternly. "You shouldn't do that," he said. Kamunu nodded, promising to stop. He also asked the animals to not trample of Kamunu's farms, and they all agreed to it. And just like that, peace returned. Birds soared through the sky, insects danced in the air, and the whole world was buzzing with joy again. But Nyambe, he had his worries. Kamunu was not just clever, he was also vengeful, and that scared Nyambe. He also did not want man to know any more of his divine secrets of creation. So, Nyambe decided to run away from man. He crossed the mighty Zambezi river, hoping the waters would keep him safe. But guess what? Kamunu, with his unyielding spirit, made long stilts and walked across the river until he found Nyambe. Nyambe's fear grew. He turned to Sasisho and Kangomba. "Where can we live where Kamunu can't find us so easily?" They hurried to an island, thinking it would be their sanctuary, but Kamunu wasn't giving up. He made a raft from trees and paddled right to Nyambe's island. He even brought gifts of animals and fish to show he meant no harm. Nyambe took the gifts, but his heart was heavy. These were his children and he couldn't eat them. Then Nyambe, desperate, created a huge mountain to hide on, but man climbed it too, holding onto rocks as he sought to find Nyambe's new home. Nyambe knew he had to find a new home, far from man's reach. He sent out the messenger bird and the red antelope to search the world, but everywhere they went, they found humans. They searched the valleys, the deserts, and the forests, but the world was filled with man's children. Nyambe, in his desperation, called upon the soothsayers and Simbukiki, the tiny prophet. He sent flocks of birds to find Litooma, the legendary city of gods, but they returned empty-beaked. In a last-ditch effort, Nalungwana, Nyambe's wise diviner, seized Liuyi, the spider known for his cunning, and commanded, "Find us a refuge where man cannot follow." Nyambe commanded the messenger parrot to accompany the cunning spider. So, Sasisho the messenger bird and Liuyi the spider went on the biggest adventure yet. They flew and scampered across vast landscapes, through dark jungles where the trees whispered secrets, over mountains that scraped the sky, and into valleys where the earth sang with hidden magic. They braved storms that turned the sky black and navigated through mists that hid the stars. They encountered creatures both wondrous and terrifying, from the silent giant snakes that coiled in ancient trees to the talking rocks that could guide or mislead. Liuyi, with his webs, mapped out the stars, while Sasisho, with his keen eyes, spotted paths invisible to others. They faced riddles from wise old trees and tricks from mischievous spirits, but their determination never wavered. They faced storms so fierce it was like the sky was throwing a tantrum, and navigated through mists so thick you could cut them with a knife. They met all sorts of wild creatures, from snakes that looked like they could swallow the moon to rocks that spoke in riddles. They dodged tricks from playful spirits who loved pranks, and solved puzzles from trees so old they remembered when the world was young. In one daring moment, they had to cross a river of fireflies, where each step made the ground light up, revealing their path, but also making them targets for watching eyes. They encountered a forest where every leaf sang a different note, creating a symphony that could enchant or confuse. They faced storms that made the sky look like a painting gone wrong, and navigated through mists thick as soup. They even had to outsmart a mischievous wind that blew them off course, leading them into a cave where they found ancient writings about Litooma, giving them clues to their destination. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, they stood before a place so magnificent, so hidden, that no man could ever claim it. The fabled city of the gods, Litooma, was so magical, seeing it was like stepping into a dream. The air was filled with the sweet scent of flowers you've never sniffed, and the light was all kinds of colors you've never seen. They returned, breathless and exhilarated, to Nyambe, their voices filled with joy. "We found it. The fabled town of Litooma awaits you, Nyambe." To keep his secrets safe from man, Nyambe made up his mind to head to Litooma, the fabled city beyond the skies. He and Nasilele packed their bags, filling them with all the magic and wonders of their world, preparing for the epic journey ahead. On the dawn before his departure, Nyambe took one last look at Balozi Plain. He gathered all the animals, from the tiniest ant to the grandest elephant, for a final meeting. He built a large fire, the flames crackling like the end of an era, and placed a pot of boiling water right in the middle of it. He then posed a challenge: "Who among you can lift this pot from the fire?" One by one, the animals stepped up, their pride on the line. The GNU tried with its horns, but the heat was too much. The antelope attempted with its delicate hooves, pulling back in pain. The deer tried with its teeth, only to yelp and retreat. The elephant, thinking its strength would suffice, used its trunk, but even it couldn't withstand the scorch. Each animal, in their unique way, tried and failed, leaving them with singed fur, feathers, or skin. But then, man came forward, Kamunu, with his clever mind. He didn't try to match strength with the fire. Instead, he doused the flames with water, cooled the pot, and then lifted it with ease. Nyambe watched, his heart heavy, and spoke to the gathered creatures. "See, man is more cunning than all of you. He will be a danger, so if you want to go to a safer place, come with me." The animals, however, were torn. They loved the Balozi Plain, the feel of the earth, and the sweet waters of the Zambezi River. They whispered among themselves, some ready to leave, others not. The hippopotamus boomed, "I am stronger than man. I'll defeat him with my might." The lion roared, "I am the king of strength. Man is no match for me." The leopard purred, "I'll ambush man in his dreams. He'll never see me coming." The wild goose honked, "I'll fly away. Man can't catch me in the sky." The gnu and the great red antelope both declared, "We'll outrun him. Our speed will be our shield." The fish in the river swished their tails. "We do not fear man. We live where he cannot follow." The giraffe stretched high. "I'll see man from afar. He can't surprise me." The tortoise withdrew into its shell. "I will hide. Man's reach will not extend here." The rhinoceros, after a painful attempt at lifting the pot, fled to the water, grumbling about his scorched hide, and various birds tweeted, "We'll fly away. Man's feet will never touch us. Nyambe, with a sigh, declared, "You are naive. You do not truly understand man's cunning." Yet, he respected their choice to stay behind. As a final act of protection, Nyambe decided to ensure that man's children would not be equals to the children of the animals. He declared, "The children of Kamunu will be weak and feeble for a year, unable to run and destroy other animals, but the children of other animals will be strong, able to run the moment they're born, to escape from man's harm." And that's why human babies take their sweet time to walk, while the young of the wild are up and about almost immediately. All the animals nodded in agreement to this new law of nature. With heavy hearts but hopeful spirits, they bid Nyambe farewell as he left the Balozi plain for good, taking with him only those who chose to seek refuge in Litooma. With Sasisho, the swift messenger bird, and Liuyi, the clever spider, by his side, Nyambe set off across the Zambezi River, heading towards Litooma, the legendary city of Nyambe. The animals he took with him were beings so mysterious and unique that their kind is unknown to us today. Once they reached the other side, Nyambe spoke with a sense of finality. "Let Liuyi return, so that his wisdom remains in this world." But Nalungwana, the wise diviner who had journeyed with them, shook his head, his voice grave. "No, let Liuyi's eyes be blinded so he can never find this way again. Otherwise, he might guide Kamunu right to Nyambe." Understanding the necessity, Nyambe, with a pang of sadness, blinded the spider's eyes, ensuring the path to Litooma would remain a secret. Then, Nyambe began his ascent, rising high into the skies, alone at first. Nasilele followed, her presence a comfort in the vast expanse. One by one, the animals, these strange beings unlike any seen on Earth, floated up after them, their forms shimmering with an otherworldly glow as they ascended to their new home. From across the river, Kamunu watched, his heart sinking as he realized his chances of learning new secrets from Nyambe were now gone. Determined not to accept defeat, he tried everything to reach Nyambe. First, he attempted to build a tower, stacking wood upon wood, reaching for the sky. But the tower, too ambitious, too human, collapsed in a heap, and many of his people perished under the rubble. Next, Kamunu fashioned wings from leaves and branches, dreaming of flight like the birds. But the wings were too heavy, too clumsy. Men leapt into the air, only to fall back to earth, their dreams shattered along with their bones. In desperation, he led his people up the highest mountain, believing he could climb to the heavens. But the mountain was no ordinary peak. It was a sleeping volcano that woke with fury, spewing fire and ash. Many men perished in the molten chaos. After these failures, Kamunu, his spirit broken, abandoned his quest to uncover Nyambe's secrets. But every morning, as the sun rose over the horizon, painting the sky with hues of gold and crimson, he honored the divine presence he could no longer reach. He bowed his head to the ground, clapped his hands, and with reverence in his voice, he declared, "Mange, mange, mange muliete," meaning, "Glory, glory, glory to the one above us all." Sometimes, in the quiet of the night, Nyambe would answer these prayers. In dreams, he'd whisper new ideas to man, sparking innovation and creativity. But there were also times when Nyambe would claim the children of man, taking them away without return, a reminder of his power and the cycle of life and death. From his celestial perch in Litooma, he watches over the world he had shaped, forever out of reach, but ever present in the lives of those below. And thus, Nyambe, the great god of creation, perched high above in the heavens, maintains his supremacy over humans.
Thanks for watching yet another episode of Timbuktu Tales. like, share and subscribe to watch more of such amazing tales from Africa. Are there any stories you would like us to work on? Feel free to share your ideas in the comments section below. And hey, don't forget to hit that notification bell to always get updates.